All right, thank you very much, Veli, and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to our first game of the day here. I'm very excited to get into this one. I think Jesse right at the end there made a very good point in that, although, especially from the predictions, right, it definitely seems like we're leaning towards Mirage here. I wouldn't necessarily say it's a definitive lean here. There's plenty of opportunities, in my opinion, where we could see Beast Coast take it. However, it's going to be a tough map choice, ultimately. If you notice on their bans, knocking out a lot of those very heavy team dynamic focused maps and ultimately still ending up kind of on one of those regardless as they get stuck on Kafe after everything is said and done.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is it like an 80% lean into, you know, Mirage, or what is it? But like, as you were saying with Kafe, it really does present this issue that both of these teams could really run into from what we've seen in recent history. As you said, we're leaning a little more towards Mirage just because it really feels like they've got something going on over there inside of that camp. But for Beast Coast, it feels like there's still a lot of parts that they have to get implemented properly, especially with obviously the new IGL coming in, the new management, you could say, coming in for Beast Coast with Biologic. So, you know, getting fit into his system in the way that he likes to IGL, more than likely a lot different than what they've dealt with in the past. And I think that Kafe is definitely going to be a test for this team.
Well, as usual, we have our community poll question for this match. We want to know from you guys with 5 plants apiece, who is going to be planting more today? Will it be Dream from Mirage, who also stood out the fracking department in the most recent match for this team? Or will it be Anthony from the Beast Coast? Let us know over on our social channels, whether it's the Twitch chat, over on our Twitter at R6 Esports, or another one, and we'll let you guys know if you were right with Veli a little bit later on when we get back to the desk with those guys. But back onto the discussion here, Kafe is going to be a tricky one, especially when you consider, again, keeping the discussion kind of centered on Beast Coast and the tribulations they'll have to work their way through in this matchup. Mirage is going to be starting out on defense, so once more, we're going to have to try and work their way through the rougher part of things inside of that second half there. You could argue that's a good thing, but at the same time, this is a map that leans very heavily to the defensive side, so if we see a rough start here from Beast Coast and they have to bounce back on the defensive side, where the analysis desk talked about them having issues, they could be in for a rough day here.
Yeah, Siege is a game where a single pick can decide what happens inside of a map, and Kafe almost exemplifies this issue where if you end up losing a singular member, you're basically done in certain scenarios, especially when it comes to utility usage and stuff like that. So we'll see if Beast Coast ends up running into any of those problems, but I have to completely agree. I feel like Beast Coast starting on the offensive side here, obviously going to be an uphill battle. It feels more like a trial by fire than anything.
All right, let's see what kind of bans we're going to get here. Mirage has the first and final bans as they're starting out on defense, and Beast Coast will have the 2 center ones. For anyone who might be a little bit newer to Siege, wondering how the system works. No surprises, though, on the initial ban pick here is Thatcher going to be immediately removed, as he is often the case, specifically here on this map. Obviously, for those who remember, historically, it was kind of universally the case. We started to see that drift away only slightly, but on some maps where he kind of let his utility get away. This one, however, is going to be popping up now and again for the foreseeable future, in my opinion, as we'll see Flores being banned out next.
Honestly, not surprised by this Flores ban at all for Kafe. For those of you that obviously know how Kafe goes, it requires a lot of clearing, and Flores is that operator for the offense nowadays, with those explosive drones able to get rid of shields and everything else that you find a nuisance for your offender. So good ban there. Mira coming out just to make it to where those top floor defenses aren't as strong. She also has some other applications through sight, but most notably that top floor. Last one going to be Clash, and well, as just for that lane control that we saw utilized a little earlier on today, she can just be so annoying when she's able to hold onto a zone for a little bit too long.
You know, that was common bans, at least in the case of half of those there, but certainly making sense when you consider the way that this map has been playing out recently, specifically with regards to the Flores and Clash bans. Other than that, though, pretty much everything drifting along the meta as it's been played over the past couple of months. Already going to see an IQ immediately get worked in here for Beast Coast, which will be interesting if that ends up staying. We'll see in just a sec here if he 6-picks it out or not. Obviously, there is some possibility to see it, but not going to see a Valkyrie used by the defense, which would have more than likely been the thing that would have kept Biologic on this operator. So without that, he'll 6-pick over to a Zofia instead. And at the same time, we will get one from Mirage as they'll do the quick switch over from the Maestro to the Pulse.
Solid lineups on both sides here. I really like that 6-pick from the Pulse coming out. Plenty of Nitro cells to use inside of this site as well. Dream's got the Bulletproof for some extra info, and, you know, nice comparison there, or nice little caveat to what Nyx is going to be doing with that cardiac sensor. But switching over to what Beast Coast is doing on their side, obviously that 6 pick coming in for the IQ onto the Zofia for Bio. Really like that. They needed a little bit more destruction in the way of being able to get rid of this utility, especially with the castle barricades and Goyo shields and whatnot that's going to be around the map. They also definitely need those stuns to be able to burn through some of these ADSs. So it seems like Beast Coast have the tools in order to actually get to the site and have a solid shot in winning this round. It's just how it's implemented.
Fairly usual extended top cocktail as well as white hold coming in here from Mirage, as they are going to be going over here towards the mining hold as well as dining room here. So a little bit different than what we've traditionally been seeing from a lot of our teams, which is drifting towards the library and dining hold. So we'll see how Mirage is going to handle this one. Overall, though, at least for the beginning of the round, things are going to be played in a very similar way. You'll still have a lot of emphasis on denying any top control away from Beast Coast here. And we can see that already being done to a certain extent. Nyx already with the cardiac sensor getting a lot of intel onto that 3-man group that's rappelling up to the top now.
On top floor, so top hold floor, or top floor hold, excuse me, here for Mirage. Going pretty well so far. Obviously, not too much time off the board yet here for Beast Coast. And just a little caveat, or a little bit of information that I was looking at my side monitor here for just a split second. Beast Coast, actually lowest rated team as of right now across the board, statistically speaking, but doesn't mean that they haven't had the worst games in the world. Obviously, going up against TSM, that was a 7-0, but we saw how that TSM game went earlier on today, as they seem to be making the meta now inside of North America. So Beast Coast with an opportunity to start getting some more positive stats and some wins on the board for this roster. And so far, offense not going too poorly, able to get some pressure on the top floor, have a clear going on right now. Bio already holding on to white stairs as well, so might be able to force some, flush someone out of this top floor.
It's important to note the importance of this match, I think, for both of these teams, as they both have gone against pretty highly rated teams prior to this one, and this will be the first matchup they have here in the stage where they're facing off someone kind of on their level to an extent, if you're talking about these middle of the pack teams that we've seen here in the league. And with regards to that, they're both very much going to be wanting to take home a win, especially in Beast Coast case, given the 0-7 loss to TSM, which for the time being, I'm willing to write that off. It's a great chance for Beast Coast here today to get right back into good footing and hopefully get a few more points on the board if they can get an outright win. Very slow opening round here, though. Very little action going out across the board overall. Mirage taking a very measured approach to this, falling back as necessary instead of sticking around and trying to hold parts of the map that would eventually lead to them, in a best case scenario, trading themselves out, and in a worst case, just outright dying with not much to show for it besides wasted time. That does take us, though, to this final minute, where we're going to have to see what Beast Coast can do with absolutely no damage done and very little time on the clock. Already making some impact, though, as loading's going to go down to half HP.
Sadly, it looks as though Beast Coast is playing into the hand of Mirage. Nyx still down low on the first level. That cardiac sensor, that nitro cell, more than likely going to come in handy here in a couple of seconds. But as we get more of an upkeep as to what's happening on white, it's 2 big kills here for Beast Coast as they're trying to power their way onto site. Loading, still holding things down inside of mining. Actually has case control right outside that window, not aware of the positioning, though, of the 2 Beast Coast members on red. Very low time here now, and it seems like they've gotten the read as to where the plant is going down. Nitro cell out. Can it get it done? It can! Nyx does it! It plays out just like it should from below with the pulse. Beast Coast, even knowing that the man was down there but could not rotate somebody fast enough to stop him. The nitro cell wins it for Mirage.
I didn't know if it was going to work, but that's that experience coming into play there for Nyx. Obviously, years of it built up at this point here, playing on not just this map, but Siege in general there. He's able to figure out quickly how to get that nitro cell to work in his favor, and more importantly, clutch out the round in massive fashion. He steals that one right out of the hands of Beast Coast, who, to be fair to them, had a really nice execute going onto the site. Mirage had fallen back, but didn't really seem to have the most secure positions to play from, especially when you look at the one player stuck in the corner of mining. So, considering all those factors there, the fact that Mirage still able to sneak off the win with that really nice pulse play is a massive takeaway going into the second round here.
Absolutely. And I think the biggest thing for that, right, is the fact of what you were talking about earlier inside of that round. The clear for Beast Coast was just extremely lethargic, and that's not the biggest deal. They had some really solid entries. Obviously, they were able to get in sight and have a plant attempt with 4 men up, so it's a really big deal. But since, you know, obviously it was just such low time, they didn't have any opportunity to try and play around what Nyx was doing downstairs. So very unfortunate for for them, but they still have 5 cracks at this to be able to get some rounds on the board, so not all doom and gloom when it comes down to it. Either way, though, Mirage are going to be moving us downstairs, and not only that, but looks like they're going to be doing some pretty unique things with their kitchen setup, most notably not fully reinforcing bakery.
We'll see how this all pans out, as there is a lot of defense still being focused on the small bakery as well as Kochek to a certain extent. So there's probably going to be some play capability coming in from that. You can see as well one of the walls left soft here in order to possibly play around with it. So a lot could be happening here for Mirage. We'll see how it all pans out, though, as the early round, once again, unfortunately for you folks at home, probably going to be not so eventful here, as this top clear will not be contested in any extent from what I can see here by the Mirage roster. Now, as they start to work their way down towards the second floor, things will start to get a bit more interesting there, as you got the players on those specifically the red stairs position, and not just there, but I think there's other players by the bar steps as well that are probably going to try to poke up, see what they can do against this opening move from Beast Coast, and see if, more importantly, if they can find any initial picks. But that'll come with time. Like I said, Beast Coast have a pretty easy job right now, since there's not much of a vertical hold.
Yeah, none at all. Mirage simply have to sit here and wait as of right now, and this is, as you said, very similar to what they were doing inside of the previous round. So don't expect this to change up all too much. Nyx will be in the most forward position. That's that red player that John was talking about previously. Is he might be trying for something a little aggressive here. Has an opportunity, but can't hit the shot onto the IQ, but just going to give up his position instead. I really like the setup that Mirage have down low here. Plenty of crosses, lots of things for Beast Coast to worry about. And honestly, that's the biggest deal when it comes down to it. You really want to force the offense into a position like this where they have to worry about a multitude of different angles all at the same time, and if something goes wrong, they're more than likely going to lose a member. But as Beast Coast begin to break up this flooring, it seems like they're starting to get some insight as to, well, this isn't your rudimentary kitchen setup.
Yeah, I'm curious to see if Beast Coast reads into this, and if they're going to try to apply pressure towards the other side of the map, which, hey, just as I was talking about that, Rudy starts to put that pressure in. The issue here, though, is this isn't the be-all, end-all solution of just going towards Freezer. You still have 2 to 3 players holding in Whiskey, and obviously down there towards Small Bakery, too. That's not an easy swing you can just commit towards. Benji's well with a nice angle there. Stops Rudy's quest before it even gets started. Sippin also going down as well. So, I mean, the point I was trying to make really is making itself known here, is that this is just not a very easy hold to clear in any way, shape, or form. And Beast Coast are falling apart at the seams, excuse me, as a direct result of it. Down to already just Fozo and Anthony trying to clutch out the 2v5. They have site access in through Freezer, but you can see they've got to use the last of their ex-Kairos to take care of that castle barricade. It's still not a clean peek for Anthony. He's got both of his drones available. Those will have to be used, but time is now going to be an issue also. Fozo's on the entry, but just like that, we are going to see smoke start to block off access from the inside of it also. Anthony with one more kill, but it doesn't really mean much when it's the very first one they've gotten all round, and Nyx with a clean closeout shuts things out for Mirage in round 2.
Hey, Mirage are cracking open the book. Christian, with the coaching and everything else that this staff and squad are doing right now, so very solid. Beast Coast, honestly, not a snowball chance in hell at actually winning that round. They lost way too many people early on there. They didn't have any insight as to what was going on down low. And I'll be really honest with you, that strategy from Mirage, very dynamic in the way that it works. With the information that they're able to gather from the bulletproof and how the castle barricades are set up and just the point of contact that they're trying to take, especially in that Whiskey area, it's going to be difficult for them to try and, you know, win that out, especially on the first attempt. Like, that's going to be very problematic. You don't exactly think a Jaeger's all of a sudden going to be pushing you from coat check and all this other stuff that can possibly happen to you, but that's what Mirage are doing. They're capitalizing on that information and using the funneling that the castle barricades, as well as the opposite angles that they're, or not opposite, but the opposing angles that they have against the offense, and making it very difficult for them to work that space. And that's how Mirage ends up with all those frags early on. Obviously, Beast Coast only having a part of that bottom floor. They're able to get control of Freezer, but wasn't worth very much, was it?
So it's looking like we're going to see Mirage avoid the third floor hold, assuming that they're able to win out on this site as well. Which is interesting to know. Like we said, it's not anything game-breaking or anything like that. They're not the first team to opt for this one. The first 2 site holds go that cleanly, but this is just furthering the point that that third floor, that top floor hold, getting a little bit played out for defenders, so teams are not feeling as comfortable to play into it as they had been in the previous couple of months. We'll see what Mirage's hold is going to look like. From what I've seen so far, it's not looking too crazy from what we normally get on these library setups. setups here. Obviously, you got the cocktail hold going on up here, but take me through it, Stokes. Here, what's going on at Whitehall?
I was going to tell you the one thing that's the biggest change up in this is that we have quadrupled down on the burning method of defense. Dream, Benji, loading, Quartz. Are these ringing any bells, guys? Are we looking at these operators? Because have fun trying to get through all that utility. 3 ADSs, all the discs in the world, also laser gates, and on top of that, you got Vulcan shields popped up everywhere. And oh, by the way, mute jammers just for the icing on the cake, just so people aren't allowed to drone how they want to. This looks to be quite the solid round here for Mirage. This, truthfully, is up to Bio and how they break down this round and how they use their utility, because the biggest thing nowadays with how this goes is you're able to reset laser gates. So if you burn all your utility and you're not able to make the plays how you want to, you reset those gates and somebody's going to have to take some HP in order to get those gates back open. So they could run into quite a few issues here. Let's see how this breaks down as Beast Coast are, well, quickly resurging through this top floor.
Quartz with a pre-primed nitro and everything. There's going to be some info on the Benji's position, but they can't do anything with it just as of yet here. That does burn out the Surya gate. Going to be able to get at least one flash past it, and Ain as well actually nearly takes down Benji. Immediate support on the pre-fire coming in from loading though, but the problem is there's still frag grenades in play and no support on white stairs to mitigate that. Rudy successfully takes out the rotated support in loading, and now leaves Benji alone up here on the white stairs angle. Good news is though, it's not at the end of the day for the entire third floor hold. There is still at least one more player hiding out in Cocktail as well. Mirage really trying to hunker down on this setup, but as you can see, it's not working. Another kill goes by the way of the attackers. Dream looks and misanalyzes the situation from the looks of things there. Ends up dropping down just a bit too soon. Fozo takes him down, and now Mirage only with 2 players left standing. Nyx and Quartz have to somehow bring this back in a 2v5.
Very desperate for the time being, and Rudy almost with the double. Well, he'll technically get one, but can't find the triple as he can't get the double on white stairs. It's down to Quartz inside of a 1v4 now. No nitro cell either, so simply down to bare bones here. The Vector in hand, he's got some info off of an audio cue from somebody shooting the default cam, but can't even get that done as they'll simply slip back into pillars. White stairs is a push for Beast Coast, and they'll take up the last member here on the defense of Mirage, and that'll be Beast Coast's very first offensive round. A solid round overall as well. I like what they did with the top floor. Loved that they focused their utility around the white hallway. That's exactly what needed to happen. Loading coming up and trying to assist, that could have been good if it happened a little bit earlier on, just simply because he could have provided another one my disc or something along those lines to be able to assist with that clear, but obviously that was not the case. He shows up a little late to the show and ends up eating a frag grenade instead.
I get why there was such a heavy rotate from Mirage and such a heavy attempt to continue to move players up there and try to fight against the push from Beast Coast. It seemed like, you know, especially from what we saw in those ending few seconds towards the actual site, it didn't really seem like they had any utility at all to assist with the actual site hold, besides what they had just done with the soft and soft destruction and the reinforcement panels. So considering that, I think they wanted to try and play out that upstairs hold as long as possible in order to sit behind that utility and utilize it to waste as much time, but they just kept committing into fights where they really, at least as far as I was looking at it, had already fully lost ground and was really just a lost cause trying to regain it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the biggest thing for that, right, is the fact that Bio catches the counter angle on east side, right? He starts repelling Cocktail and starts working that side because since they already have Christmas control, you're going to assume they have someone playing Cigar for the cross there into bar, so no one can like run across and try and jump down or anything like that. Once you get control of white, really, there's only one way to leave, and that's that hatch that just got broken inside of Laundry. So once Bio grabs that, it's over, man. It's over, John. You can't go anywhere, and that's exactly what we saw. We even saw, I believe it was Dream, right? Trying to like hop out the window or whatever, but it just wouldn't work.
Yeah, like trying to get like an aggressive move there, and then he had to turn around. I think I said like he misjudged it, but that was probably incorrect, so apologies if that was so. But either way, like just a really awkward situation for the entirety of Mirage trying to get something to happen because it fell apart so quickly. Like keep in mind, we're talking about them trying to waste time by recommitting so many players upstairs. The push from Beast Coast was, I don't even think it was happening that late in the round. I think we were only like a minute and a half in when they started taking the Whitehall control. So that's another reason why Mirage would have wanted to continue to stay in there.
The hologram, man.
It's just going to quickly deny that as it rolls in. Unfortunately, he'll have to change positions as his has now been revealed. And unfortunately for him, Beast Coast's probably going to have a pretty good idea as to where he's gone, so we shouldn't expect too much of a surprise sitting inside of this closet here. But either way, East Coast now know that the threat is there, just now have to deal with it, whether it's going to be through utility or something else that they choose to use in a moment here. But Nyx is sticking around regardless to see what happens.
Yeah, Beast Coast are doing a great job right now stacking for their utility usage. Yeah, it's early, and obviously it's on a hatch. That one's very straightforward, but utility usage so far throughout Kafe has been immaculate, and that's a really, really big deal when it comes down to this map. So we'll see how they're able to handle Pixel here, but so far, this Mirage defensive setup is actually quite interesting. I like what they're doing with the mute inside of Cigar, obviously knowing that that M590 is quite difficult to deal with when it comes down to it. More than likely going to eat one shell and either get downed or died, depending on the range. Either way, though, still trying to work this from the roof is Beast Coast, as they've gotten some insight into where that positioning from Nyx was earlier on, but nothing truthfully else. Might still know he's inside a hut, but nah, Nyx cleans it up. Rudy down. He's the only member to hop into the top of red as well, and that'll be first blood here at 1 minute and 10 seconds.
Like it really just jinxed that for Rudy there. I was like, oh, and they're going to expect him in the closet. He's not going to be able to do much from there, and he'll get forced out. Clearly not, as Nyx's patience ends up being what sets him up for success here, immediately denying the push from the attackers and setting up Mirage for a very good 5v4. It is going to get evened out now due to a pick from Sippin here as he successfully drops down to red and trades out Nyx. We're back on even terms here, but not really with a whole lot of time, as you folks at home can see. 35 seconds left. The good news is they only need to attack the third floor. The bad news is all of this mitigation utility, the Surya gates as well as the ADSs, anything else that's still going to be in the way, the Vulcan shields, all need to be dealt with. And I'm going to be honest, East Coast doesn't have the time to deal with them all. So let's see how they make it work regardless.
Oh, somebody just dropped from Beast Coast. This might be a white stairs flank or something. We'll have to see what happens here. But the push has to come through now. They need to start swinging and trying to get these frags. They'll get some insight into Dream's position on Cocktail as the plant starts going down. It's going to be the far side of the bar here, but do they have the stop? That's the biggest question. It looks like Anthony might get the play here. He does indeed. Still a 2v4, make it a 2v3, but now down to a 1v3 as it's only Bio left for the offense. He'll be able to pick up one, but the interesting thing is he's able to do this. He can play from underneath with IQ on the scanner. It can stop anyone because he can see their phone through it. Just shoot him in the head, Bio! Bio, kill him! No! Bio can't make the play happen because he's standing on a concrete floor. Big brain stuff from Mirage there to avoid the IQ play from downstairs will bag them their third round.
So Mirage go right back into controlling form there. Once more, bleeding out the time by just directly getting in the way of the approach from Beast Coast. Credit to Mirage for that, but unfortunately for Beast Coast, not much with regards to trying to change up the overall push when they had issues getting down that red hatch. There's such a heavy focus on it and never really, from what I could tell anyway, tried to work their way in too successfully to anywhere else to speed things up a little bit. So they were left with that awkward situation, like I said, right before the execute, where they only had like 30 seconds left to go through all of the motions, and that's just not enough time to make it work. As we saw, the flank over towards Freezer was left unguarded. They were able to push their way in through that, pick up the kills needed for the rest of the team to get that much more aggressive and flood out onto the site for the retake, and unfortunately everything just kind of fell apart from there.
Yeah, but it also shows like the counter to what Mirage was doing, right? Because they bring all of those operators to coincide with each other and create that scenario where you have to burn through all of these things. You can't get the castle barricades how you want to because of the Surya gates. Like, there's a lot of things going on with that Mirage setup, but the one thing that they don't have is plant denial. They don't have any of it. And that was the biggest deal there. They didn't have a nitro cell or really anything. All they had to do there was try and gun out. And it worked out very well for them, obviously. But it got kind of dicey there for just a split second as Anthony starts to put that down. If the crosses are held well for Freezer, then that could have been a completely different round. But luckily enough, Mirage able to make it out on the other side. They're going to be shifting gears and heading downstairs. And it looks like we want to stick with what we had seen before. It's going to be a very, very similar setup here. All except for, I believe, the Goyo, who has been switched out. We still have a deployable shield here at the bottom of red, just to be able to hold down towards Whiskey, as well as play into the site if necessary. So still have a pretty creative thing going on here for Mirage.
We also traded out the mute for a smoke, or at minimum just ended up ditching the mute from the previous round there, so that'll be brought back in. So obviously the smoke delay is going to be much more prevalent on the first floor hold in the kitchen. Much more of a normal site take compared to a lot of the other ones on this map, in my opinion. So you can play things out in that late 20 to 30 second execute in a very traditional way. Rudy, a little bit scared about what he might have been finding behind the wall there, so a bit of a panicked pre-fire. Let me be clear, no drone intel to validate that, but he shot it anyway. You're right, man. Just
I mean, how many bullets? Look at how many bullets Quartz has right now in his AUG. 206 bullets, John. You're gonna listen. If I'm playing Kafe, I'm shooting through the walls too, man. These guys are in the trees. You don't know where any of them could be. We've seen some very scary things happen recently with people able to rat around the building and stuff like that. So always better to be more aware of your surroundings, or if you think you have an itch, might as well shoot at it, especially if you are on those entry type characters. But either way, though, Mirage starting to back things off. Quartz still with a solid hold here on the whiskey bar. He'll be able to take out the hologram of Rudy, but nothing more than that. Beast Coast gets some information off that, but they're going to translate this into what they're doing with this mid floor, which is starting to break up the flooring into kitchen. That's going to be onto the sledge of Sippin to start that job up, and they've done it in pretty damn good time as well. Minutes still on the board. Don't have to worry about the time crunch like they did previously.
Yeah, so this is a rerun of that same hold over towards Kochek and Small Bakery. We already saw Mirage run flawlessly on their last hold here, so this is the first readjustment we're going to get from Beast Coast. The problem is, it doesn't seem like the progress has necessarily been made just as of yet here. Mirage still have great control over essentially the entirety of the first floor, and despite Beast Coast definitely doing more to try and flush out this hold, once again, they haven't been met with too much actual success in accomplishing those goals. Benji down 25 HP, okay, now down another little bit, but still confirms himself a kill against Bio as he tries to hop the front door into Kochek. Going down to a 5v4 once again now. Beast Coast having to walk right into the jaws of the beast with not a whole lot to support them. A 1-for-1 exchange is not terrible, but with no time left, Benji trying to dodge more nades finally goes down. Dream also falls, so Beast Coast might have a horse in this race as of yet. Loading with the spray to try to take down another player, but Rudy gets the better of them instead. Loading denies further action by Sippin, and here comes the utility denial. He's got the angle for it. He shoots the second off as well. What a play from Mirage as they take yet another round.
Loading chase with the big plays here. Great utility usage, able to shut down the sledge, gets the space to get back on the drone, and cancels the plant. That's 2 plants Beast Coast could have had if they were worried about the utility of the defense, and that's 2 times they've not been able to get it to go off. Oh my, Beast Coast cannot get away with any of these offenses so far. It seems like they've been plenty creative, but when it comes down to these kitchen offenses especially, Mirage is just simply bullying them. It's very, very difficult for them to try and work into sight. That round went a lot better, but they still try for this entry down red stairs, and well, they notice a little bit too late that there is a massive crossfire set up for that area, not only from Small Bake, but also from deep inside of the kitchen area, playing off the deployable shield from Rice. So, you know, you have to worry about a lot of those different facets of the defensive strategy that are working against you, and they're just not able to do so. Yes, they're able to muster some control in the back of sight, but again, they're not accounting for this utility. And nowadays, folks, you really can't get, you know, or give people the benefit of the doubt for not worrying about echo drones. They're not even invisible anymore. So, like, it's one of those things where you just really have to be attentive to the situation. And although, you know, it is more of a, you know, very anxious situation, there's a lot of things going on. It sucks when it comes down to that, and it's that one box that you did not check that ends up losing you the round.
I mean, in the moment, obviously, I don't...
Exactly.
In the moment, it's unfortunate to look at it there, just because obviously the Echo drones hadn't really been an issue in that round up until that point, so it's kind of something that's, for most players, not really going to be in the back of your head, but there's going to be a bullet in the back of Biologic's head now, it seems, as Nyx takes him out very early on the inside of this round, just within the first 20 seconds of the action phase as well. So it's going to be unfortunate, a big piece of the soft breach, as well as the entry team going away here now, and it's going to fall to the remaining 4 members. Things are looking good for Mirage to start out with a very promising lead at the end of this half, though, assuming the rest of this round continues to follow through. Let's see what we got here.
I was waiting for him to hop through the skylight.
No, I
That's
think
what
they're
I
just
was
setting
waiting
up for
on.
a frag.
I was very scared there for a second. I didn't want anybody just hightailing it into the building and getting shot off rip. But you know, hey, what's our strategy for round 6? It's our last offensive round.
I was about to be like, man, is this a full like a full tilt moment here?
Yeah, Bio gets first picked. He's like, all right, screw it. We're going right into the skylight. It's over. It's over, but no, that's not going to be the strategy, luckily enough, for Beast Coast. And they're actually going to be going through for this top clear once again, but that's exactly what we would all expect from them, given that it's Kafe. Still have some targets to worry about upstairs, but looks like they got the drone game already working. They will have to worry about some info here from Nyx, though, as he's going to come up huge. They have the call right off the cam, and loading gets 2. Sippin fires back. He'll take down Dream, but that's simply a participation trophy for round 6. It's 4-2, and Mirage are well on their way to dominating their defensive half.
Coming down to just those last 2 players on Beast Coast now. Not a whole lot of map control to play off of. They can try to pull a vertical pinch. You can see Sippin obviously working his way from the first floor. It's quite the opposite for Anthony. So there is some play potential. It's just so hard to work it here when one player is going to be on constant drones now. The other one has to watch their back and try to play off of that drone intel. It is so tough for Beast Coast to work their way out of this situation. But credit to them. They have had quite a bit of significant progress in still trying to frag despite these desperate situations, so I wouldn't count them out of it entirely, especially with a good opener like that. Anthony finding loading. No damage returned onto Anthony as well, so it's a clean kill. Sippin now up the pillars, but he's dangerously close to multiple members of Mirage, Nyx being one of them. Nyx trying to play ring around the rosy a little bit here, but it goes into the hands of Quartz instead, who will find Sippin there, leaving Anthony all alone in the 1v3. Now, Anthony does have the info on the pillars player, might even know a little bit about the one that killed his last remaining teammate. Once again, good engagement on the individual side of things from Anthony. Doesn't lose anything from the exchange. He knows he's low on time, so he's not going to waste it. Tries to go back to 90, but that's where Quartz will take him out, going off the bulletproof camera info to seal the deal on a 5-1 lead for Mirage at the end of the half.
Man, I feel like Mirage simply just made this entire building like a CIA surveillance area. It's insane. Like the van sitting outside, there's some guy just like saying every comm possible inside of their ears right now. They've got cameras everywhere, John, inside of Christmas, inside of hallway, inside of mining. So much info for Mirage to work off of there, and practically impossible for Beast Coast to battle back. Not only from the early pick onto Biologic that we saw, but, well, the dagger in the heart being the Nitro Cell that picked up 2 members immediately after that inside of Christmas. After that, obviously, Beast Coast have to try and battle back, but there's honestly not too much to talk about. They simply have to try and take the gunfights, and they don't really work out. Yeah, Anthony's able to get one from the top floor, but that's about it. Past that, not the greatest offensive half for them. Beast Coast down 5-1 currently.
Cheeky little 6-pick coming out from Beast Coast as they're going to be bringing the Tachanka into play here for the very first round of their defense. We'll see both him as well as the smoke in play here, so a lot of delay capability inside of the site itself going to be working its way out for Beast Coast. Could be somewhat useful for retakes as well, depending on how much of that utility will be left over in any theoretical plant scenario, but those have been denied quite handily so far throughout this map, so we'll have to wait and see how this plays out, considering it's obviously Mirage's first attack also. They're bringing quite a bit of utility in order to work themselves in, and more importantly, avoid that run around that you're going to be seeing the Nomad brought back in, as well as Nyx bringing the Yana for that advanced intel. Safe from that, though, not too surprising of an attacker comp. Let's see how they handle the Beast Coast setup with its heavy amount of delay.
Yeah, a heavy amount of delay, but also just a couple of different dynamics from different, metas that we've seen in the history of Rainbow Six. We have 2 of the greatest 3 armors to ever exist in this game in this lineup, Echo, as well as the Alda carrying Maestro that we don't get to see enough of nowadays, if I do say so myself. But as a big part of that, we also have Rudy coming in as Tachanka, something that we're starting to see a little bit more of. We saw TSM utilize this on Oregon, as Bolo was able to hold down Freezer quite handedly with that new fire launcher utility. So we'll see how they want to try and implement this in this setup, but they will be doing this without Sippin, as obviously he has been taken down a little while ago. His ADSs will still persist, as well he'll still have some semblance of assistance for the team's overarching strategy.
Yeah, the good news is if there was one player to lose on the Beast Coast, this was probably the easiest one to lose utility-wise. Not much is going to be lost whatsoever, especially with regards to what you could potentially see later on in the site if someone like Foza had gone down and they lost the Alda on top of the active capability of those Evil Eye cameras. So definitely still a very winnable situation here for Beast Coast, despite going down in the man advantage yet again. They've got to be careful. You can see right now, Mirage are primed to punish any sort of aggression we might get from the remaining Beast Coast players here. Still fending it off, though, as multiple members of Mirage are taking serious chunks of damage as they try to push forward. You can see Nyx going fully down there. Dream also took a few hits when he tried to peek into here. So, a bit of a bump in the road. It seems that Mirage have hit Time to see how they can work their way past it. A good amount of drone intel from the back of the site there, but they still need to look for other ways forward, and they're not going to find them so easily. Just opening up the front door, you could see already Bio in the way of that. Dream, though, comes out on top of it as he's able to pick up the next exchange for Mirage and also put the advantage back in their favor. Pushing it forward even further is going to be Dream, who's continuing to dominate. That's Rudy now down on the ground. All of those incendiaries dead. What a good follow-up from Bio, though. Erases the head off of Benji. Also going to see one of the smoke gas grenades come in to save the life of Biologic, but here's the problem. Court's on the swing. It's not enough to kill Bio as he trades it out. We're down to a 1v1. Dream hunting for the head of the last player alive. Over on the Beast Coast roster, he's got 35 seconds to locate it. A quick move from Dream here to deal with that insight intel. He knows he doesn't want to go for a plant with a camera on him. That would surely mean his death or a very hard fight to win at a minimum. Keep in mind, he's at a health disadvantage in this fight also, but he does have the objective to play off of here. Here's the problem, though. Bio can immediately bring out that utility of his own, deny that plant, possibly stun him for an engagement as well. Dream has to finish this up sooner rather than later. Misses the cross from Bio. He gets to the other side. 7 seconds left, and he's going to walk right into the trap. Beautifully played by Bio in the 1v1 to close things down and keep Beast Coast in fighting shape at the start of the second half.
Cool as a cucumber, John. Didn't, not even a fret in the world. Did not care, did not anything. Played that to a T. Used the drone, used everything at his disposal to stop that plant from Mirage. Very well done there from Bio, especially with the way that he was able to pick that up, and technically a 1 versus 2. Court's getting very aggressive through the barbed wire on Brown Stairs, ends up getting taken down, and what we're presented with this moment where Bio has to 1v1 Dream for a little while, but a 1v1 it was. Pretty amazing to watch there for a couple of moments, but either way though, Beast Coast staying alive here, not allowing Mirage up and on to match point just yet, is, well, they're going to be headed towards Fireplace Mining for this defense, but we're not just done talking about that previous round and what was happening there. We didn't get to see too much usage out of Chonka there, at least from our perspective. We did at least get to see him play around the bunker area and get some usage on holding space with those mollies. So very interesting gameplay that has been provided with that character over the last couple of weeks.
Had a laser snipe on the 6 pick coming from Mirage there. Obviously, for the Beast Coast side, they switch things over from a Jaeger to the Pulse, but immediately Nyx is going to be quite happy once they get into the round, and he realizes that because he made a switch over to the IQ. So anytime Anthony tries to bring that cardiac sensor out, Nyx, with his own piece of utility, is going to be able to find him, assuming he's in range for that, which could prove very useful for dealing with the Pulse if it slows down the overall pace of their attack, which it quite commonly can do.
Yeah, very common as well as just assist your defense like crazy with the amount of info you get, you know what I mean? Like, look at the camera setups that they have right now for Beast Coast are more than likely what's going to be the big thing for them inside of this round. They have Valkyrie cameras, they have Evil Eyes, and they have Anthony manning that cardiac sensor like we were talking about before. So they're practically going to be able to pilot themselves around the map for the entirety of this round off of pretty solid info. So we'll have to see how that goes. They are going to have some semblance of a top hold here, as Rudy seems to be like it on his own island, all except for, I believe, Sippin holding his White Hall. Yeah, he's going to be playing the White Stairs here, but still a couple of dangerous areas. Things could go wrong. We'll have to see exactly what happens with Rudy, but this all could be a cruel ploy just for Mirage to gain some confidence and walk into a Nitro cell.
Sippin continuing to play around with the upstairs position. He'll be trying to assist Rudy as much as possible here. And we'll still see Mirage making their own progress, quickly dealing with the castle barricade, blocking off access to White. Floating will take up the immediate position to punish anyone that should rotate to assist the upstairs hold, while Dream works on the actual push forward here, getting intel on the cocktail hold if anyone is going to be positioned in here, what they might be able to do to stop it. In fact, the forward team at the front of Whitehall already taking care of that. Nyx dealing with Rudy. So far, no rotates up. But remember what I mentioned before. Loading's already here for it. And there you go. Shuts down the next player. It's smooth sailing right now for Mirage as their strategy is working flawlessly to pick up the first 2 kills for them.
Heck of a flush there from Mirage, forcing all the Beast Coast members towards White Stairs, or forcing them into inopportune gunfights, able to take down the first 2 initial members here. So Mirage now well ahead inside of round 8, going down to the last minute. They'll begin breaking up the flooring, although Anthony will have some insight as to what's happening, especially around the white stairs area. Now, does he have a nitro cell? He does still, indeed, but he's the only nitro cell left on the squad. So this is a really, really big deal right now if he's able to get anything done with this. Fozo also getting a read on someone upstairs through this vertical angle and not taking his shots just yet. Just patiently waiting. Nyx ends up getting taken down. Anthony might have another one here with the ump, but ends up sliding into dining. He's going to be able to play his life out, although Bio will get taken down upstairs from Benji. Anthony still working his way through this site. Still has that cardiac sensor out and able to grab a couple of different angles. Definitely needs some assistance right now, though, from Fozo.
Huge loss for Bio to go down in that specific situation there. He was the wedge between the attackers that had moved forward, and unfortunately, with him gone, there's just not enough left on the site to stem the tide. Mirage waltz their way in, pick up another round, and are that much closer to closing out this map and match.
Honestly, I think that this right here is just kind of the statement that we needed from Mirage, especially with what it had happened inside of the offseason between Stage 1 and Stage 2. Hot and cold going to SSG Mirage, bringing Quartz back in, a fresh-faced roster asked for all of us, every single caster, analyst, people on Twitter, people on Reddit, everywhere were just praising Hot and Cold and what he was doing for this team, and how he's the lifeblood of Mirage. And when he left, everyone thought, well, it might be a shell, it might not. We'll have to see how it goes. And I can tell you without a doubt, this team is not just hot and cold. They look fantastic for how long this team has been together with Quartz in here. I mean, they're managing things extremely well. Their map control is immaculate. I just really, really like what I've seen from this team so far inside of these 2 weeks. But again, we haven't even gotten halfway through the season, so it's still early beginnings when it actually comes down to it.
A little bit late for the pause coming in from Beast Coast, but better late than never as they'll try to figure out something to bring them back from the brink now at a 6-2 deficit. It's 4 rounds continuously that they must now pick up, and that's just to take us to OT. They still need 2 more after that in order to outright win this game, and even then, they won't be getting the full value of points anymore. The best they can do is take it to OT here and try to get at minimum the 1 point, 2, of course, if they win. Otherwise, if they drop it, 0 points on the board for them today. Mirage will claim all 3 of them if they get just 1 more round out of the next 4.
Okay, well, right around the corner from the round that could decide this map here for us is Beast Coast will be headed to Reading Room and Fireplace Hall, the mid-level here for them. Don't want to go to bar, don't want to go to kitchen, don't want to go anywhere else. And the defensive setup across the board looking quite solid. I think the freshest faced here obviously going to be Bio on the Vigil. This is an operator that we haven't seen from either one of these teams just yet. But now Bio bringing it out for the very first time here. And this could be for just more aggressive play on the defense, or simply just trying to rat around at a higher level. Obviously, with the Vigil's ERC-7 backpack, you're not seen by drones, and you can be quite the nuisance even playing from sight.
We can see how Vigil works its way in here, seeing as we haven't had him picked yet from what my memory remembers in this matchup.
Yes, sir.
And drones have been a very big part of especially the early game here and trying to figure out exactly what these positions are looking like. Going into the late round as well, we've seen them become important for kind of the outnumbered 2vx situations and trying to push the attackers closer to the site and get some semblance of an attack working for themselves. But obviously at that point, that's where the Vigil prevalence is going to kind of move away for that conversation. So we don't need to talk too much about that. What we do need to talk about, though, is the opening action from Mirage, as they are out on the board now and are probably going to make some pretty quick progress in order to get themselves in to at least the cigar part of the 3rd floor. The setup for Beast Coast is your usual cocktail stoppage. We'll see if it will work, and more importantly, how much time it can waste away, and also if Biologic's going to be able to get anything done with a very forward position under the bar to possibly punish early skylight peaks.
This is one you always got to fit into a Kafe game, John. That's what I always say. Anytime I'm on Kafe, you got to fit a nice little skylight peak in there somewhere. Somebody's got to lose their noggin for overextending, and that's something we've seen from a lot of players, especially, well, most notably, Shaiko, as he usually plays, well, right to the left of this area and ends up taking down quite a few people inside of that skylight.
It's looking like he's not going to get anything early on here. That's not to say this is a completely useless position, though.
Well, that's because you shouldn't peek the skylight, John.
Yeah, someone could still peek in there in about 30 seconds or so, and Bio could still get that kill. Here's the problem, though. It's now at the deficit of the rest of his teammates. He tries to follow up for a trade against loading, but it doesn't work. However, he is able to safely transition back into freezer at a minimum. So Bio Still in this round, just down a teammate. And once again, Mirage having the 5v4 to work off of is probably going to be a massive sigh of relief for them as they can take things a little bit more slowly now with that extra lifeline to play on.
Okay, so Bio calls for the drop here of Fozo. He'll drop off. He's going to be holding this up top with Rudy, who we saw inside of bathroom for Whitehall. He'll still persist here as well as Anthony will pick up one on to Dream. Rudy getting into a gunfight. Just waiting to see what will happen inside of Christmas. It looks like Mirage are simply going to hold on to that area inside of Christmas so nobody can drop behind them and get forceful with other parts of the map. As of right now, this is looking like they could possibly try and force reading. They're going to force themselves into 90 here. Nick's pushing in with Benji, able to get the flank onto Fozo. They'll take control of the site, and I'm assuming start this plant quite soon. Yes, Nick starts things up right now. Bio no longer having an impact, won't more than likely be able to stop this as he can't find the angle, and now it's up to the 1v3. The captain up against Mirage and 3 of their members to try and keep Beast Coast in it.
Bold strategy here for Mirage, and it seems like it's worked out. Ignore the remaining upstairs hold from Rudy and Bio. Play into the site. They know they've been winning on entries and just in general and any sort of detached 1v1s, and they play to that advantage here in this round, and it seems like it might have sealed the deal for them to win the match. Indeed it has. Court shuts down the final frag, and Mirage are going to take control of this matchup today versus Beast Coast on Kafe.
A great game here from Mirage, 7-2 up against Beast Coast, and obviously Beast Coast still working on things, but not a slouch of a team in the slightest. We've actually seen some pretty good stuff from them inside of these last couple of play days. So Mirage now with that moving into a pretty dangerous matchup next week, John. I don't know if you heard about this, but they got TSM on the docket.
Well, we're going to have to see if they can get more than one round on the board, more than 0 rounds, in fact, on the board for that one, as TSM is quite literally looking like the most deadly team the NAL has ever seen, based off of the past 2 matches they have played, and even their opening one as well. So we'll have to see if Mirage brings some interesting stuff to the table inside of that Kafe matchup, specifically their extended kitchen hold going over to Bakery, as well as Coach Check there that we saw Beast Coast struggle with on 2 separate rounds. And that's not the only thing we saw from them either. A lot of delay, utility delay being thrown in their extended 3rd floor holds. A lot to talk about there from Mirage. A lot of unique stuff being brought to the table, and obviously worked quite well to stem the tide of the attacks, as well as the defenses that were coming in there from Beast Coast as they win that 7-2. That's going to do it for myself and Stokes for now. We still have one more game to catch up on a little bit later on. We're going to go to a quick break. When we come back, Veli and the boys will be breaking down that match for you.
What does it take to call next? Follow us for a deep dive into the Rainbow Six community, breaking down barriers, taking you behind the scenes, and showing what it means to level up.
We said it earlier, and the thing just keeps on coming. These teams are just blowing each other out right now, and Mirage had a definitive win against Beast Coast. Great plays all around for this team, and fellas, Jacob and Jesse, the analysts on the desk, I'm gonna need your help to break this down.
Bro, Mirage saw both TSM and SSG get those quick wins, and they were like, you know what? We need to make this the shortest day of the North American League we've ever had. We've been live for about 4 hours, and so far we've already seen 3 of these games blow by, whereas we might be here for a much longer amount of time. And some of this does come back to Beast Coast simply not putting up a fight. Mirage have crosses every which way Beast Coast look, and there were also some pretty questionable operator selections in there as well.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think this was an intel-heavy map. We saw a lot of those intel operators coming around, and I definitely felt Mirage utilized those a lot better than we saw from Beast Coast. Really did feel like they had a full grasp of what was going on. I think starting on defense helped out Mirage to make this as decisive as it was, but Mirage were in control the whole way through, whether they were on attack or defense, and for that, they get themselves a 7-2.
And in control, they definitely were. Of course, the newcomer 7-4, again, impressive with a 78% calls, but on top, he's earned it so well, loading with 9 kills and 7 deaths, leading the way with 2 opening kills of his own. Bio and Anthony led the way for Beast Coast, but it just wasn't enough with 7 kills apiece. But fellas, Jesse, you and Jacob were talking about operator use. I'm guessing it has to do with the IQ. What about her? Are you not happy with what you saw, or do you think that she could have done more?
So I put out a tweet that IQ is my least favorite operator, and I don't know, every time I see IQ, it's just like, it's kind of frustrating. I totally get why IQ is being brought in these situations, right? There's a lot of Echo being brought here. There's a lot of Valkyries, a lot of Pulse as well, and those mining, dining bomb sites, Valkyrie and Pulse were hugely important operators. On that bottom bomb site, on the kitchen, you know, Echo is crazy important, but when you end up not on one of those sites, right? When Beast Coast had to attack on that top floor, when they thought maybe we'd go somewhere else, and they had that IQ, it meant they couldn't destroy those bulletproof cameras, which really did allow, I think, a lot of that collapse to come in from Mirage when that plant is starting to go down. And even though in that round, like, the plant still happened, you know, even when you've got an IQ down below, this is like, I'm like, okay, never mind. IQ is finally getting her chance to shine, and then, like, Bio can't even go through the bars just because of the way that the floors are made in Rainbow Six, and that's not even on him. That's just, like, what happens when you play IQ sometimes. It's really a roll of dice. So yeah, I wasn't too happy with the IQ usage. It just feels so hard to justify when you're not bringing those explosives. You could be bringing a Zofia. That's usually the operator that was missing out of the lineup to Beast Coast. So I don't know. It was also brought by Mirage. I did like it a little bit better when Nyx brought it because there was both an Echo and a Valk on the board. So the value's a little bit higher, but it still feels really hard to justify IQ without frag grenades.
Jacob, there's something I want to bring up with you, but just real quick, did you want to touch on that?
Maybe just a little bit, because
okay.
I'm not really one to say that we need to be stuck in the exact same operator like lineups the entire time. On attack and defense, I love it when people bring out different ops and we see how they're utilized. Like when TSM brought Tachanka and Bola was playing him last week, I thought that was great because that's an operator that has a ton of utility use for something like in the way Bola was trying to execute on it. IQ is just one of those that keeps on flying under the radar for a very good reason. She shouldn't really even be on the radar at all. And in situations like this, you can't justify the lack of having something like a Zofia, like Jesse was talking about, in a situation where you need to be able to burn and create different rotates. And that's just the thing where I thought Beast Coast, they did drop the ball a little bit. If you were gonna do something like with anti-intel operators, that's cool, but something with an IQ, especially with the way that she was utilized in that game, simply didn't seem like it was the play.
Yeah, now Jacob, the thing with you, Mirage, they were winning rounds or like they were gonna lose. We call them clutches, but you said it was like they stole it. You called them thieves, but either way, they were still able to pull out and get those wins. What about those rounds really kind of made you feel a certain way?
Because it was wins that Beast Coast absolutely should have been winning. For context, I'm talking about rounds number 1 and round number 5. Round number 1 was where Nyx had that Nitro Cell kill from down below. He is a floor below mining, and he gets a perfect angle from kitchen, arcs the Nitro Cell up through a hole that he's got sitting right there, kills the Yana mid-plant, and Beast Coast can't get back to it in time. It's a beautiful play, but it happened again when Loading was playing Echo. He manages to stay alive long enough all the way back inside Bakery. He kills someone trying to flank him, then gets on a Yokai, has 2 charges left, stops Sabata from planting default right back behind bunker. It's a beautiful play, but that's 2 rounds where they not only don't have man advantage, but it very clearly seems like they're going to lose, and it comes down to the pulse scanner and the yokai that prevent them from getting those plants down. That's why Rainbow Six is so special. When you have operators that are capable of manipulating the battleground in ways like that, it's not just down to gunplay, and Beast Coast still cannot seem to win the fights when they need them.
Let's see if you can win this fight, Jacob. I think I asked Jesse last time, but for the community poll, the question was for this game 3 with 5 plants apiece, who's planning more today? Oh, I feel like this poll isn't fair. You have Anthony MGS versus Dream. Jacob, who you got?
So Anthony had like 5 plants in that game against Oxygen.
Yeah.
Off the top of my head, I'm not remembering exactly how many plants Dream had. So maybe just off the back of those 5 Anthony plants, maybe he won the poll. I don't know.
I feel like Dream wins in any poll, period, because of the Dream
It's
claps.
Dream, yeah.
It's Dream. We love Dream.
Yeah,
Jesse,
exactly.
who you think got it?
Yeah, what are you doing? It's Dream. Come on. Anthony is a fantastic player. He's
I'm
gotten
taking a
lot,
decent
but
guess. Hey,
it's
if I get 1 L today, at least it's on just a community poll. Come on.
Well, none of us are going to take a L on this one. Mirage is going to win it because it was Dream who was up 86%. That's a lot of love for that man right there. But also, Jacob. Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, but coming up next, we actually have Sonics versus X, and I had a brain fart right there. But that game, I actually think, like Jesse's been saying, is going to be a complete sleeper. I can't wait for it. I want to see X pop off. I want to see Sonics get back to their old form. So we're going to come right back at you after this short break.